Okay, we're going to get started. Again, welcome. Good afternoon. My name is Lucas Caldwell McMillan. I am the Chief of Policy Staff here at Empower Missouri, and I'm really happy to welcome you all to. And if you're talking to someone, make sure to keep yourself on mute. Really happy to have you all here for day 3 of our week of action. For those of you who were at our earlier events, thank you. Particularly if you've come to all 3, special thanks. We've had over 180 advocacy actions taken this week so far, with more to come today. And so really pleased when so much is going on in the world and all their lives that you've taken time to join together with us, your fellow advocates, and learn about important issues and take action. Really excited about the topic today and about increasing affordable housing. Pleased to have with us Misha Smith, our Affordable Housing Policy Manager, who will be taking us through the day and the actions we're taking. Misha, you want to take it away?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm so excited you're here, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about the Missouri Housing Trust Fund campaign that we have kicked off and why we're doing it, what we're doing, and how you can get involved. So, this is the agenda. Um, we're going to start with some breakout groups, just 5 minutes, so that you guys can get to know each other, people in your area. And so on the next slide, Lucas it'll be popped up what region you're in, and then you should see something pop up on your screen. And you can choose a breakout room based on where you are in Missouri. And you can talk with other people, introduce yourself, and tell each other what brought you to this session today and make some connections, hopefully, as we work to fight for accessible and affordable housing in Missouri. I'm then going to give a quick housing overview for anyone that is new to this space so that you understand like what it looks like in Missouri and why we have this coalition that we're fighting and advocating for stronger housing policies. I'm then going to spend some time going over the Missouri Housing Trust Fund. Then we're going to have a group exercise, kind of a break to get interactive. And then we're going to take action and learn and join the campaign. And then we're going to close it out by talking about the follow-up event to this, because we did divide up our week of action and our day of action. And so we will be letting you know what we'll be doing during the day of action, February 25th at the Capitol, and how you can join us. And so to start off, this is the map, and you should see something pop up about breakout rooms. And Lucas is getting those set up, and then you can join based on where you're at and talk with some other people.
Thanks, Misha. So the room should be open. If you see where you have your mute button, you should see breakout room option. If you don't, please click on the 3 dots for more and go to breakout rooms there. If you're having any trouble joining a breakout room, feel free to put in the chat which region you'd like to join the breakout room. Or if you're not able to access the chat, go ahead and come off of mute and let me know that you need to go to whatever region, and I will put you in that breakout room.
In Kansas City, or I'm sorry, St. Louis is towards the bottom if you scroll. So I'm looking at it now, unless my screen may be different than yours. Okay, I'm going to go jump in the Kansas City room because there's a bunch of people in there, and say hi, and then I'll pop back out if that's okay.
Yep. Mary, you should have gotten a pop-up. I think maybe, yep. For anyone who's just joined, we're doing regional breakout groups. You should see breakout rooms at the bottom. But I believe I'm just talking to Empower Missouri staff now. So feel free to join breakout rooms or don't. Welcome back, everyone. We've got a few breakout rooms who must be having really good conversation. They're using their full amount, so we'll get started in about 22 seconds. Misha, all rooms are closed, so everyone should be back.
Okay. Well, I popped into the Kansas City chat, but it was great, and I to see meet new people and see coalition members, and I hope everyone got to connect. So now let's jump in and talk about why affordable housing matters. Okay, so currently, this is the state of housing in Missouri, and housing availability for extremely low income households and for people who aren't like aware of that language or what it means. These are people that are at like zero income up to about 30% income of the average median income in the area. And so these are people who maybe are unemployed, making minimum wage, working part-time, or receive Social Security, TANF, those types of income. And so we have over 200,000 people in Missouri as of 2024 who are considered extremely low income households. But we also only have a little over 85,000 homes available that would be affordable for them to rent, which leaves us with a shortage of over 120,000 homes. And so the question people ask is, well, when you can't afford rent, what do you do? And that seems to be the big question. And then our housing wage, Missouri minimum wage as of January 1st is $13.75. The Missouri housing wage, though, the average to afford what we consider fair market rent for like a 2-bedroom in Missouri, you need to make $20.83. And many of us know that fair market rent for a 2-bedroom at $1,083, it's actually a lot higher than that in many places. Kansas City, it can easily be $1,200 to $1,400 or more. And so V will put a link in the chat, but on the National Low Income housing site, you can enter your zip code and it will tell you what the average wage you need to earn in your income to afford rent for a 2-bedroom unit. And I've done this with a group before, and people are shocked how much they have to make, or the realization that, wow, this is why everything is really feels expensive, because you're paying so much more of your income for rent. And so if people want to post in chat anything about that, or what they saw or how much they have to pay, you can do that. I know that Lucas and B are looking at the chat. And the thing is that we know that when people can't afford rent, when they don't have supports after a financial emergency, they're evicted, people end up homeless. And we in Missouri, homelessness is up again this year, about 10% total of all homeless individuals, but over 7,500 people are homeless in Missouri as of the 2024 point in time count, which is something that happens across the country through HUD, that advocates get together over a 24-hour period in January, and they go out to shelters, to outdoor spaces, anywhere where someone who is considered homeless may be, and they get a count, and then they average it out. And families, though, the one thing though, families with at least one child under 18, over 2,000 people were considered homeless. And out of that number, 189 of those families were unsheltered, which means streets, cars, abandoned buildings, places not meant to live in. And 189 people may be like, well, that's not a whole lot, but that's a 52% increase since last year. And nationally, homelessness is up 18%, and unsheltered family homelessness is up 40%. So it really is a huge problem, and it's impacting many of us, people with jobs, people with families, older Americans, people with disabilities, and people who just had an emergency, which we know costs are going up. They can't afford rent, and next thing you know, they're on the street, because moving is very expensive. So we will move on to the next page. And why does it matter, and what can be done? So, as I said, most of us are one emergency away from eviction and homelessness. Many people have had times where they're doing okay, but something happened. We heard a lot during COVID, people were missing a lot of work, and they couldn't pay rent. And many of us are living paycheck to paycheck. And one emergency means you can't really pull from one paycheck to cover the emergency here, because you don't have the extra money. And so we know that to fight this and to prevent more people from experiencing homelessness and to help more people stay housed, we need increased construction of housing that is affordable and accessible. We need homeless prevention services funded, such as emergency and ongoing rental assistance. And I will talk more about how the emergency assistance is such a crucial part of the Housing Trust Fund and how that all plays together. Rehab and modification of current housing, because we know that people can be in housing and then something changes. Maybe with no new construction, a lot of the housing in Missouri is much older. And so we know that rehabbing or making modifications to fit someone's physical needs are very important, or to make sure the house is safe. And that takes funding, and we need that. And then we also need to fund the agencies that are providing these direct services that end homelessness and support housing stability. A lot of times you hear people say, well, the frustrating thing is it takes so long. Well, that is because the need is growing up and the agencies do not have the funding to be at the capacity they need to meet that need. And so they're doing everything they can with a very, very small amount of resources. And we know that increasing those resources means more people helped and more people helped quickly. And so now I'm going to jump in a bit with some of the history of the Missouri Housing Trust Fund so you understand what is this and what are we doing. So the Missouri Housing Trust Fund, with the help of advocacy efforts of Missouri, Empower Missouri in 1994, along with bipartisan support, full bipartisan support of the Missouri legislators in 1994, they passed this legislation called the Missouri Housing Trust Fund. And I was doing research yesterday and I found a document that said the purpose of this is to provide housing and housing services support to the communities with the highest needs in Missouri. It was passed specifically to help those who were struggling the most, because we know housing is one of the foundational parts of community and individual stability. And so the fund.
Misha, can I be a blast from the past? I was actually there when it passed. I was lobbying in the building. I worked for a Reform Organization of Welfare. Originally, we were trying to get $7, and that wasn't going to fly. So we did a whip count. We went around and saw all the legislators and figured out that if we lowered the amount to $4, we could get it passed. So I was part of a citizens group in the building that helped win that. As Reform Organization of Welfare, RAL was in partnership with then MASW, which became Empower Missouri. So advocates have everything to do with this. And we might name Janet Becker as a person that was pivotal to the developing of this idea. She's a saint in the housing world in my book.
Wonderful. Yeah, I was looking up yesterday to see if I could find any former documents from the session. But so thank you for that, because I was wondering what it was like. And as I mentioned earlier, when this was passed, or what can we do to address these housing issues of people struggling to afford rent, losing their homes, not being able to meet their basic needs because so much of their money is going towards covering the cost of rent and increasing our housing supply? Well, the Missouri Housing Trust Fund, the funding goes specifically to homeless prevention services, which can be long-term rental assistance, housing vouchers, even emergency assistance to keep someone from being evicted, rental assistance, like I said, the one-time and ongoing, construction of new affordable housing, and that rehab and modification to existing housing that is so desperately needed as the housing we have in place now is currently getting older, as well as those administrative costs, operating costs that is covering staff, increasing the amount of staff, increasing wages, which we know in the social work and nonprofit world is always needed. And the funding is managed by the Missouri Housing Development Corporation. And you can go to their website and see more. You can learn who's applied for funding, who got funding, what agencies in your area, your region are getting funded, and what they're using it for. So we will move on. And then the current status of the Housing Trust Fund and why are we doing this campaign? Okay. So as JMO mentioned, and I was talking about, this was passed in 1994. And it is the fee is a recording fee. So, like if you buy a house and you file your documents with the state, you pay the average is like $24 for the first page and then $3 each sheet after that. And $3 from that fee is put into the housing trust fund. And that is also connected to real estate activity. So like this year, the funding is down almost 2 million from what the funding was last year because of decreased real estate activity. But that fee has not increased since 1994. And we know that a lot of things, prices have increased since 1994. I'm okay aging myself. I graduated high school and things were a lot cheaper then. And we know that the $3 in 1994 is not the same now. So we're going to do a group exercise. If you're familiar with Menti, it's like a word cloud. And you can either scan the QR code or you can go to the website. We'll have the link in the chat. And I'm going to ask you just to put in like, what are things that over your lifetime that you pay more for, and you do it because you know these are things you need, and so you just pay the increased cost. And then Lucas will share his screen so that we can see what everyone's putting up there. So we'll do this for a bit, kind of have a break, get some interaction from you guys. And if anyone has any issues, let us know in chat and we'll make sure you have the correct link or everything. Oh gosh, cat and dog supplies. Yes, I have 2 cats and wow. Eggs, definitely. I saw a recipe that called for like 4 eggs and I'm like, I think we'll do that a different time. I need to get a chicken. Yeah, milk as well. Daycare. Oh my gosh. I know when my girls were little, I was a stay-at-home parent just because I couldn't make enough income to justify the cost of daycare. And so my spouse was like, I'll work, and I stayed home just so we could save. And I know it's so much more now. Everything. Yeah. These are really great answers. Supporting family members. Yeah. Yeah, I saw someone said toilet paper. I added paper towels to my grocery order the other day. Usually my roommate picks them up, but was out of town. And I was like, I messaged them and I'm like, when did paper towels get so expensive? Yeah. Lucas, I forgot to keep track of the time. We're doing okay, right?
Yeah, we can wait for a few more answers, but we're doing great.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. Basic items for the house. I usually do grocery delivery so I can track prices. And the other day I was like, wow, on one of the items, I'm like, I'm not ordering that anymore. These are really great answers. And I notice, so the one thing with Menti is if people add the same answers over and over to be bigger. And I notice rent is the biggest one. And so the purpose of me asking this, and you can keep this up why we have it, but the reason why I ask this is, do we or our policymakers and our lawmakers, sorry, man, words today, guys, right? Do we see programs that support affordable housing in the same way? Because housing has been underfunded at every level for so long. And HUD, there's a thing going on now where we don't even know if our federal programs are going to be funded the way that we need. But if anyone just wants to put in the chat, or I can take one or two people if you want to come off mute and answer, but do we look at these programs that I talked about, the homeless prevention, the emergency assistance, one-time assistance, the staffing capacity of these agencies? Do we look at that as the same way as a need that we need to fund as we do all these other things? And if no one wants to answer, that's okay. You can just think about it. But there's all these things that we have in our life that we do pay more for because we need them. We need food. We have to put gas in our car. We need housing. But we also need these services because it does help prevent homelessness and keep people housed, which we know is just the best outcome for communities and individuals. Yeah, Chandra, I agree. And I think some of the other work that I'm doing around housing education is helping people realize how housing is really involved in so much of what we do and everything. So I appreciate that point of view. And so we're going to go ahead and move on so that we can get to the other information. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that. Those answers were spot on. So when you look at Missouri's Housing Trust Fund, and I listed out based on 2023 funding, which is where I could find the most updated information of other red states around us and their housing trust funds. If you look at per capita, we are really, really low. And this was 2023. And for 2025, we are even, we're almost $1 million less in funding than we were for the 2023. So our per capita is even lower now. And so looking at this, it just shows that we need Missouri to know that this is a priority, and we need them to make it a priority. And so that's what we're going to be doing. And then we can move on. And if you look at the request, the amount requested versus the amount awarded, like we said, if you look at $3 in 1994, inflation has increased 124%. And so we know that $3 is pennies compared to what it was in 1994. And about an average of 2/3 of requests that come in are denied. And a lot of those requests are around construction and developing new housing, which we know we really need, because when something isn't as available, supply and demand, when something isn't as available, the price goes up because a lot of people are renters now. We are very much a renter's economy. And so if you look at 2025, as I said, 12.5 million has been requested. And I put awarded with an asterisk 2.5 because that is what is available to be awarded. They haven't published or awarded those funds yet. And so I don't have that data, but this is the average of what is available right now. And so as you can see, Lisa, yeah, we will also be making these slides available and can send this to you so that you have it, if that works. So yeah, as we can see that $3 is not going near as far as we need it to right now. So we'll move on. You're welcome, Lisa. Yeah, and then if we look at 2024, we see that construction and rehab, almost $1 million was requested because the Missouri Housing Trust Fund, I do want to make sure I mention this, people can request funding if they meet the requirements, but that includes nonprofit organizations and developers. Developers who want to construct, build affordable housing that falls within the parameters of this, they can apply as well. So that's something I really like people to know, is that this is open to developers, and there are developers in the past, I've been looking at past data, who have received money, but we don't have enough now. And so there's no money going to that. We look at administration, and it was like a third of the money requested was able to be offered. And the biggest area of need really is the emergency assistance, because we know so many people are being hit with the rising cost of everything, and they're just needing that help 1 month to cover their rent so that they can stay on track and not lose their housing. And even though that is the greatest area of need, they awarded less than half of what was requested. And so we know that that means there's a lot of unmet needs, because a lot of the CARES Act funding is done. And we know that with like housing vouchers, only 1 in 4 households who qualify are able to access those. And so we know that this is a pretty clear indication that people seeking that support, many of them are not getting it. So now we're going to talk about our campaign and what we're doing about this, because we're not just going to talk about the problem, but we're also talking about what we're going to do to find a solution to this. So the 2025 campaign, when I was thinking about this, a lot of it came from being in Jeff City last year. And one of my coworkers at the time was testifying on a housing bill, and it's like, there's like 50 people here who support this bill that would harm our communities and actually take us in the opposite direction of what we need for housing. And she was the only one there to support it. And, you know, with the Missouri Housing Trust Fund, it hasn't gotten a hearing, because for the most part, they're like, well, we have this support saying they're not going to support this being increased, and there's no one there to really speak up and say we need this. So it doesn't even get a hearing. And I realize they need to hear the people's voices. And so when it's only been, they're only hearing from the realtors, landlords, and others who do not want this increase, that's what they're going to follow. And so I believe strongly, and I've seen it many, many times, that when the people show up, we make a difference. And so we need you on our campaign, and we need your voices, and we need to spend 2025 showing Jeff City and showing others that this is a bill that we want passed. This is funding we need. And we want a hearing, a public hearing where we can show up. Because this session, people have been showing up and filling those rooms multiple times. It's pretty great to see. And why $12? So for a long time, past legislation said, okay, we want $9 from $3. And we kept being told no for over 20 years, no. And so some of the people that are part of my steering committee for this campaign, we've been meeting and looking over the data and talking about it. And these are people from many different parts of the housing world, or connected somehow to this work all across Missouri. And we decided that we're going to ask for $12. And we're doing that because it's been 31 years now. And $12 is going to, I'll show in a little bit, but a lot of times that's just going to break us even and still leave some requests not fulfilled. But we also realize that not every request that ever comes in for funding is going to be approved, because it doesn't fit. But we definitely know that 2/3 being denied is not because they're not eligible. We know it's because there's not the money. So we're asking for $12. And that's what this campaign this year is going to focus on. But also, homelessness in the United States from 2023 to 2024 increased 18%. Almost 1 million people in America are homeless. Rental prices in Missouri increased 13%. Some areas even more. I know Columbia, Missouri, their housing study showed they've had the sharpest percentage increase of rent in Missouri, even over Kansas City and St. Louis. And requests for that one-time emergency assistance. Again, this is people saying, I'm having an emergency. I just need to pay my rent. And then that gets them on track so they can stay housed. That increased 26%. So we're asking for 12. And if you look at the data from earlier and you show what it would be at $12, you can see we could have more than met the need every year. And even though for 2025, like I said, it would still come under the amount, we also know that not everyone who applies may not be eligible, but it's definitely a huge increase, over 2/3 of applications being denied. And this would also open the door to allow developers to get funding for construction, which we need to increase the housing supply. So our next steps, as I mentioned, I have a steering committee, and I'll be talking about the steering committee and our campaign partner that you can sign on for in a moment. But we're going to be developing messaging because we want to talk to people in our communities. We want to talk to developers. We want to talk to people who benefit from Missouri Housing Trust Fund awards to help them with rent, help them transition from homelessness, help them stay in their homes. We want to build relationships and talk to people, and we want to have really strong messaging about our why when we talk to legislators. And we have an education campaign where we're going to help people who go, I don't understand how this impacts me, or I don't know what this is. We're going to have a really good, strong education campaign so that we can build up an advocacy network development so that we can get people who are connecting with legislators, connecting with city council, connecting with their communities, with their coworkers, because we want increased funding to the Missouri Housing Trust Fund when we are ready to have legislation down in Jeff City and we can get that support to get this bill moving. So we will, yeah. And so this is the part of the talk where we're going to take action. You can join, we need you to join our 2025 Housing Trust Fund campaign. This is kind of the differences between the two roles. As I mentioned, we have steering committee members. We meet once a month. We actually meet today from 2 to 3, where we will start developing out our campaign, the messaging and who we want to contact. And so we meet on the first Wednesday of the month from 2 to 3. And we, both sides, you will assist with outreach to legislators in your district. We will be creating materials for you to use, helping with scripts, helping with fact sheets so that you don't feel unsupported. Yes, definitely the Missouri Realtors Association. And some of us from the steering committee had meetings with them, and we learned a lot, but we still don't have the support. But we also realize that's okay as long as we have the support of the people. And then we will have both sides. You can support advocacy efforts through sharing those materials. The campaign sign-on, we're going to have a sign-on letter, and testifying in support of this legislation when it gets a hearing. And yes, Chandra. So for the campaign partner, that is more, you don't have to come to the meetings, but you still sign on as a campaign partner. And so we share the information with you, touch base with you on what we're doing and how to support the advocacy. And a great way also to get involved is our day of action coming up on the 25th, where if you're not comfortable or you're not familiar with what it's like to talk to legislators, you can come with us and we'll walk you through it and support you. And last year, I know V and I were able to sit in and watch, I believe it was a Senate hearing, and kind of see that process. So we're going to take about 5 minutes, and V dropped the link where you can sign on to the campaign in the way that is fits your schedule. But I also want people to know that if you do sign on to this campaign, we will have a website. If you've been connected with Empower Missouri for a while, and you know, like our Clean Slate campaign has a separate website and it lists all the campaign partners. So you or your organization would be listed. And if you still want to sign on, but you need to get approval or anything, know that there will be a time, kind of a break before we have that website up. So you could always please reach out to me and talk to me about that. But yeah, we're going to take about 5 minutes, go and to the sign up form and enter your information to sign on to join us in one way or another with the campaign. And then if you have others in your networks or other people that you know would be interested, you can share this link with them as well. So yeah, I'll give you guys until about 47 after, about 5 minutes. And one thing I'll say I like about the campaigns is we really do provide a lot of support, but also I've learned, especially through my meetings with like my steering committee, I get a lot of support from them. It's such a wealth of knowledge. I've learned so much. And so I love seeing us all work together and connecting and really envisioning what this could be and believing in our own power and ability to get this passed. This hour feels like it's gone very quick. Yeah. Also, I'll have drop a link. If people are worried about the advocacy part of this, if you're with a nonprofit, like what it would look like, we have a one-pager that really lays out that information to help you know, or if you need to show someone at your organization about it, because we have to follow that too. And so we're very familiar, but I'm also know that there are people that just can't do that level of advocacy, but there are definitely other ways that you can be involved. Chandra, so when the hearings have a hearing, or when legislation has a hearing in the House, you can submit testimony online. But for Senate hearings, it has to be in person. But for another thing that we do call to actions where you can email committee members or your legislators, like before we know it's going to go to a floor vote, and let them know where you stand. But yeah, for the virtual option, if you want to participate and submit testimony, you can only do that in the House. But that's definitely a great question. And I'm glad that you asked, because we know that there's a lot of other issues coming up as well, where we will be sending out emails to get people involved virtually, especially for the House hearings. So thank you. That was a really good question. And so we'll start wrapping it up. If people want to put like a thumbs up or something in the chat if you are done, and then we will move on. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time to do this. I'm really excited to join with people across Missouri as we build this campaign. I think it's going to be the key because, you know, we haven't really had a lot of interest in Jeff City. And we know that when people show up, they tend to get pretty interested in what we're saying. So we're going to make that happen, and I'm looking forward to it. And so, as I mentioned, we have our day of action coming up, And I believe Lucas is going to talk about that a bit more. And let me take a drink real fast.
Yeah, thanks, Misha. Thanks everyone for your support of expanding access to affordable housing and spreading the word about this way to just make a simple increase to a fee that'll have a big impact on the affordable housing throughout Missouri. And thanks, Chandra, for your question as well about a virtual hearing. We certainly would love for virtual hearings to, virtual appearances at the Capitol work, but right now that's not possible. And so we want people to show up in person with us on February 25th for our day of action. We're going to be educating about affordable housing issues, for food security issues, and community justice issues, including the Missouri Housing Trust Fund. We'll have tons of people there to help you meet with legislators, attend hearings, see the House, and learn about the issues more. We'll get you lunch. We'll get you a t-shirt as well. So please register at the link that V just shared in the chat and join us to showing up, as Misha says, when we show up, we win. Help us show up and show out at the state capitol on February 25th and support issues that will end poverty in Missouri.
Yeah, and I do want to say thank you so much, JMO, for your information. And I will definitely share the other information about accessibility that you shared. So last session or last year at Day of Action, when we went, we had people who hadn't really talked to legislators before, were not familiar. And in the beginning, they're like, okay, I'm not sure what to do. And so V and I were with them. And I think by the second meeting with the legislator, they were all like, we went to lunch and then they're like, oh, we found some other legislators. We're good now. We're going to go talk. And they were just going all over the Capitol, meeting with legislators and talking to them. So it's pretty great how quickly you realize your voice matters and it's not as scary as you thought. So it is a really good, it's a really great thing to see. But I know with V and I, we were like, okay, we lost all of our people because they were off doing their own thing. It was pretty great. And yes, as people asked, we will be sharing all of the links, slides, and the information with everyone in a follow-up email that will go out to everyone. Yeah, and then as V mentioned, we have, if you also want other ways to get involved, we have an Affordable Housing Coalition, which technically was going to meet today, but we had you all come join us here, and we're really happy that you did. And so V put the link in the chat where you can go to the page and learn about our policy priorities and sign up and get involved in the coalition where we cover all things legislative, and as well as our campaigns, and also have speakers on many different topics related to housing, which is great. Some of the people in this meeting have been speakers before or involved in our working groups or other actions that we take. So it's pretty great. And that's everything, which is good, because if anyone has any questions, this is the emails for V and I that you can reach out to us. But if you have any other questions or comments, we have some time. So I'll stay for a little bit longer. And if not, I want to thank everyone for coming, for signing up. Definitely share with your networks. And I look forward to seeing you guys all again very soon. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. This was great.
This is Catherine. May I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So my apologies, I was multitasking some during the meeting. And so I was wondering if there's any discussion with trying to make sure the focus of the Housing Trust Fund is affordable, accessible housing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely is. And also, within the eligibility requirements of the Missouri Housing Trust Fund, it has to go, a certain percentage has to go towards projects that serve people who are at 50% of AMI. And then the remaining percentage is people who are like 30%. So it really is for the lowest incomes and affordable housing. If developers are awarded the money, the housing has to also be targeted towards those communities. So that's already built into the language.
Great. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, not a problem at all. Because I know there are other sources of funding that are looking at, there's some bills actually that have been filed by Republican Representative Sharp, like the workhouse investment, which is geared towards people who don't qualify for this funding or vouchers. And they're like working class, but they're still struggling to build housing that would be affordable to them. So yeah, this though is very much for the lowest income Missourians.
Thank
That
you.
was a good question. Thank you. Yeah, Josephine?
You said at one time the committee had thought of asking for $9, but you went to $12. Now, usually people will ask for more than they think they're going to get. So do you
Yeah.
think by asking for $12, you will get the $9? Asking
So,
for $15 and get the $12?
yeah. So it's funny. That's actually what we were discussing at our last meeting. It had been at $9 to ask for $9 for quite a few years. And so we're going up to 12 just because we know that the need is greater, with the understanding that we know we're probably going to have to negotiate that. And so we are comfortable at this time if we have to go down a little bit, but we do know that we're not going to go too much lower, especially because at this point we know what we need. But also a part of the campaign is going to be talking to professionals, people in the field who deal directly with the Missouri Housing Trust Fund at their agencies and get their feedback on the $12. Because legislation isn't filed yet. We're really working on this campaign and building up the advocacy and the support. But yeah, we settled on 12 because we thought going for 15 may shut down any conversation immediately. Staying at 9 is not acceptable. So we went to 12 knowing we may have to negotiate a bit, but but we still have the plan to land within that range that we feel is needed for this. Thank you, Rika.
I know for years, MASW worked for years trying to get that from $3. And as you and Jeanette said, it didn't happen.
Nope. It's been one of the people on my steering committee said he's been lobbying for 20 years. We met with some realtors about a month or so ago, and yeah, and we're just like, it's been 31 years. A little bit of an increase is needed. We've got to do this. And so that's why we're having this campaign.
Thank you.
31 years is a long time, and $3 isn't the same anymore. But yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate the questions and the feedback. Is there anything else or any other questions or anything that I may have overlooked or need to get to? Yeah, I agree, V. Okay. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna thank everyone for coming, and we can jump off this call now. Lucas, did you need anything, or are we good?
Nope. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Yes, bye. Bye, everyone. V, thanks for